Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful, lovely day. In today's video, I'm very excited to be doing another video on the Dyson Airwrap. Now, if you didn't see my first video, I'll link it up in the cards, but I got my Dyson Airwrap about 3.5 months ago now, and in my first video, I unboxed it and gave you my first impressions on video, and I tried it out on camera for the first time. In this video, I'm going to be sharing some thoughts with you now that I've had the Dyson Airwrap for 3.5 months. I'm going to be letting you know what I think about it, what I've learned about it, how I use it for the best. I'm going to include a bit of a tutorial of how I tend to use it to get my hair nice and bouncy and curly, and I'm going to be letting you know if I regret it and if I think it's worth it. So if you're interested in hearing more about my thoughts on the Dyson Airwrap, then just stick around. But before we get started, if you are new here, my name's Trina-Louise. I do all things plus size fashion, beauty, lifestyle, hair care. So if you like the sound of that, then please subscribe and stick around. And if you enjoy this video, if you could give it a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. So I'm not going to go too much into what's in the box and that sort of thing, because I went really in depth in my first video. But just to give you a brief overview, I picked up the complete set. Now this cost me, I don't like to remind myself, but this cost me £450. It's a lot of money, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. I got this in October, and this is the Christmas edition colour for 2021. They do tend to bring out different colours at Christmas, and I just loved this blue. The Airwrap does go out of stock quite often, so I'll try and keep the description box updated below to let you know where, if anywhere, it is in stock at the time that you watch this video. I got mine from Boots. So with the full set in the UK, it comes with this box. Now I am aware that I think some of you let me know in the comments that in the US or in other countries, the Dyson Airwrap is sold in a different way. It comes in different bundles. There's a different offer basically. So check in your country. But in the UK, I was able to get this full set. So it comes in this gorgeous box. It's like a leather type material, and it's got a magnetic closure. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I'm trying to keep this video short and succinct, but you get a heat protector pad which needs a clean and then this is everything inside. So everything fits in here. I do have the long edition. I know in the short edition the barrels can stand up in the box, but in the long edition you have to lay them down, and I got the long edition because I have longer hair. So in the box you get the pre-styling drying attachment, you get the barrel brush, circular brush, you get 2 types of flat brush, and then you get 2 lots of curlers. So you get the thinner set and you get the thicker set, and then you also get the handle. So if you want to know more about each of these attachments, check out my original video because, like I said, I went into detail. So firstly, I want to share my thoughts. I've had this for 3.5 months. So whilst I'm not the most experienced Dyson Airwrap user in the world, I've had this long enough now to say that I'm experienced and to be able to share some thoughts with you. So I've written a few things down so that I can remember and hopefully not talk for a million years. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the price. £450, people. It's a ridiculous amount of money. It's a ridiculous amount of money, and I'll talk about at the end whether I think it's worth it. But what I did expect was that for £450, I would pick this up and it would work perfectly. Now, if you saw my first video, you'll have seen that I did okay, but it wasn't perfect. If you're gonna buy the Dyson Airwrap, you need to expect that you're gonna have to experiment. And the reason is that it reacts differently with different hair types. So for me, as you'll see in the tutorial, I tend to have my hair pretty dry before I use it because if it's too wet, it doesn't work. But I know for some other people, they need their hair a lot wetter. So it all comes down to your hair type. So it's very unlikely you're gonna pick it up out the box and it's gonna be perfect. There's tricks to it. You've got to hold it pretty straight. Like this, if it's turned, then it's not going to work as well. There's all these things that you need to figure out, which hopefully my tutorial will help you with. But it does mean that you don't just open up the box, use it for the first time, and it's the most perfect seamless experience. But once you have figured it out, honestly, I find it so much easier than a curler. The reason that I struggle with a curler is I can do this side just fine, but when I get to this side, I find it really difficult to make it all work, and my curls come out completely differently. I've got a lot of hair, it takes just forever. It can take me a good hour to curl my hair, and I'm still not happy with it. So for me, now that I've figured out how to use the Dyson Airwrap, hands down, like, I haven't picked up a hair curler once. I've had this for 3.5 months and I haven't picked up a hair curler once. So that says to you how much easier for me this is. Now, a few things to point out in terms of the barrel. When I'm using it like this and I'm curling my hair, I have no problems. My arm never aches. I can grip it just fine. It isn't a circle. As you can see, it's a oval. So yeah, I can, when I'm curling, absolutely fine, no problems at all. Where I do have the problem is when I'm using it like a brush. Sometimes my arm can ache a little bit, but it's not awful. But I do struggle a little bit with the grip. So it is a girthy, it is a girthy tool. So something just to point out, that if you have any struggles with your hands or with your grip, it might be worth going into store and just holding it and just making sure, like, I have quite big hands and you can see that that's how it sits in my hand. So it might be worth just going into the shop. Quite a few places sell them. I think John Lewis tend to have them in store, and just holding it and just making sure it's not going to be too big for your grip. The other thing is that when I use it, I need to keep it straight because that's the best way for the curl to work. But because the barrel is quite long, if you're a bigger chested person, it can get, you know, the chest can get in the way. So I would really want to have it like here, but that is pushing in and very uncomfortable. So it ends up being a little bit twisted. So it's not a make or break for me, but I just wanted to point out these are some of the things that I've been noticing as I use it. Another thing that I'll get over it, but it annoys me because I paid £450 for this thing, is that, and I don't know if that's going to pick up on camera, but some of the paint, the gold paint on the barrel has chipped. I'm hoping that you can see that. So there's a couple of chips on this side, and it is starting to chip along here where I attach the attachments, but I'll pop up a picture on screen in case you can't see it. Now, I have only ever had it in this box or in the travel bag that it comes with, and I've only had it in here a couple of times, and it's already chipped like that, and that is just, it doesn't affect the usage, but when I paid so much for it, I was a bit sad. I was a bit sad when I saw that it was chipped, and I would not expect this from a £450 anything. So yeah, it bothers me. It bothers me, but I'm getting over it, but it shouldn't happen, and it shouldn't have happened so quickly. Something that I was really hoping the Airwrap would be good for me is saving time when I curl my hair. So like I just mentioned, it takes me like a good hour to curl my hair normally with a curling wand. And it did take about an hour or so when I was first starting to use the Airwrap, but now I can get it in like 25-30 minutes. So that has cut the time in half, and it means that if I want to do it before work, I can do it before work. Do I do it before work every day? Probably not, but it's nice to have the option and know that it's not going to take me over an hour to do it. So for me, that is a massive benefit, the amount of time that is saved from me doing my hair in this way. Now, just to touch on the attachments, I just want to let you know which ones I use the most and which ones I don't think were that worth it for me. Obviously this all came as a bundle, but if I was going to pick a mix and be able to choose what attachments came, the first one I would pick is the pre-styling drying attachment. I use this in place of a hairdryer now. I don't dry my hair fully with this, but I blast off a lot of the moisture before I go in with a styling tool. I've used a hairdryer 3 times, I think, since I bought this, and every other time I have used this whole system. So I would definitely say that I use this one a lot. I use one of the brushes. So for me, I don't see a difference between the brushes. I think the idea between the difference is that one of them is meant to give you a like perfectly sleek and smooth look, and one of them is a little bit less so, but still pretty smooth and straight. I haven't seen a difference. So I could have done with just one, but maybe if you have curlier hair, you might see a difference. I'm not sure. If you have the Dyson Airwrap and you do see a difference, let me know in the comments. But I think for me, I could have just done with one of them. The brush, I've tried using this, but I just really struggle with the like motion of it. In the same way that I struggle with using an actual curler, I struggle with this. I do sometimes use it in the same way that I use this brush to smooth it out or to style my fringe, but more likely than not, I'm gonna use this. So if I'm not curling my hair, I will pre-dry it with this attachment, and then I'll finish drying it with the brush so that my hair is just pretty like straight and smooth. When it comes to the curlers, I only use the thin ones because with the thick ones, the curls just don't stay. You'll see in my tutorial that I leave my hair to set for a very long time, as long as I can. Like if I can only leave it for 15 minutes, that's great. But if I can leave it for an hour, even better. So if I was gonna pick and mix what I had in the box, I would have just got these because I don't use these so much, but that is down to personal preference. So is the Dyson Airwrap worth it? Do I regret buying it 3.5 months later, or am I glad that I dropped a ridiculous amount of money on this? If you're asking if I think it's worth it, for me, absolutely, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But if you're asking me if it's worth it for you, if I'm being completely honest, I cannot answer that question for you. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why it was worth it for me, but what you really need to consider is the money. I'm being completely honest here. In normal circumstances, I would have never bought this in a million years. £450 pre-YouTube for me was just the most unbelievable amount of money, and it still is, please don't get me wrong. But I dreamt of having an Airwrap, and I never thought I would ever be able to do that. The only reason I can is because I have a full-time job, which has a reasonable paying salary. It's not super high, but I get by, and I get a second income from YouTube. Again, not a massive amount of money, but enough that it means that I can do things like save a couple of months and treat myself to an Airwrap. So this question, is it worth it, is all relative to how much money you have. If you really, really want it and you're going to save £50 a month for 9 months, then math's not my strong point. Then, you know, if you're not going to miss that £50 a month and you think that you would use this a lot and you would really enjoy it, then it could be worth it for you. But I think, honestly, you can get similar looks with other tools that cost a lot less. I just find, for the reasons I'm about to say, that for me personally, and in my personal circumstances, which I'm really fortunate and privileged to be in, it has been worth it for me. So the things that I considered, apart from money, to decide whether I thought this was worth it, was the amount of times I'm going to use this, the different ways that I'm going to use this, and the longevity of the curls. So amount of use, I've already touched on this. I have used this, other than 3 times that I used a hairdryer, I have not used another hairstyling tool or hairdryer since I bought this. I've not used straighteners, I've not used curlers, nothing. This is all I've used. So for me, that just goes to show that over the coming years, how much I'm going to use this, it's worth it. It's not just a curler, it's a dryer, it's a smoothener, it's a straightener. I use this for everything. The only thing I can't really do is like wavy hair. It's either straight or curly. So I'll still use my like barrel wavers for that, but everything else I'll use this for. So for me, massive tick. The different ways you can use it. Kind of just covered that again. I use it to dry my hair, to straighten my hair, to curl my hair. I use it for everything. So I'm just getting more bang for my buck with the amount of times that I use it. And the last thing is the longevity of the curls. So when I curl my hair with a curler, no matter what I do, within a few hours, it's dropped. It's gone. No product, no nothing can do anything about it. I've tried. I've never woke up with curly hair before. But with the Dyson, I do. I did my hair a couple of days ago so I could take some pictures and videos to show you. So I curled my hair in the evening because I washed my hair at night. So I curled my hair in the evening and then I went to bed. If I'd have done that with a curler, I would have woke up with straight hair. But actually, with the Dyson Airwrap, I woke up the next day, I hadn't used any products. I'll talk about that in a second. No products, just curled it. And this is how my hair looked the next day. So not perfect, it didn't look as it does now, but still very, very curly and still super pretty and just nice. I gave it a good brush, I zhuzhed it up a bit, and I was ready to go for the day. The next day, so day 3, this is what it looked like. So again, there's still some curl in there, and if I'd have just touched that up with a couple of more curls, like spent 5 minutes just putting a little bit more definition into it, it would have looked great. I didn't because I was just going to work, so it wasn't such a thing, but I could have made that look really fresh, really bouncy, really cute again. Or as I did, I could just leave it because it still looks fun, and you can tell that I've styled it. It's not looking like it does right now, but I've styled it, you can tell. That would never ever happen in a million years with a normal curler for me. So longevity of curls has meant that it's so worth it because 1, I can curl my hair in half an hour instead of an hour, and 2, it lasts for 3 days instead of 3 hours. So for me, definitely worth it, but it's all relative to your situation and your preferences and what you want to spend your money on. All that aside, I thought what I would do now is show you how I now curl my hair. So I'm 3.5 months in. I haven't perfected it. There's still a few things that I want to figure out and improve, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and this is how it usually looks. I get a pretty consistent look every time I do my hair. So I'm going to take you through, give you some hints and tips as I go. One thing to mention is that I don't use any styling products. Now, I think you could definitely make the curls last a bit longer if you did, but alongside using my Dyson Airwrap, I'm also on a journey to have to wash my hair less. My hair gets greasy so quickly. It's better now, I'm a couple of months into this journey, but I used to have to wash my hair every second day because I'd wash it, it would look nice, I'd wake up, it would be greasy. So I really would have wanted to have washed it every day, but no thank you. So every 2 days with dry shampoo was the most I could do. I'm now up to washing it twice a week, sometimes once a week. I want to get to the point where I can just wash it once a week consistently. So as part of that, I don't use any styling products. So bear that in mind when, like you've seen my longevity pictures and videos, might be a bit different if you use products, but for my personal preference, I don't use any products. Okay, so that's enough talking. I'm gonna jump into the tutorial now and show you how I got my hair to look like this, what I've learned over the past 3.5 months, and what tips and tricks I've got to share with you along the way, so I hope you enjoy. So this is what my hair looks like when I first come out of the shower. It's a knotty, wavy mess. To prep my hair for styling, I use Olaplex number 6, which is the Bond Smoothener, and Olaplex number 7, which is the Bonding Oil. So I like to split my hair in 2 down the back, and I take some of the number 6 into my hand, not too much, it's a very thick product, you don't need a lot. And then I mix this in with about 3 drops of the oil. Again, you don't need a lot, a little bit goes a long way with these Olaplex products. So I mix that in my hand, and I use this on one half of my hair, focusing it on the lower lengths and really making sure that I get it into the ends, and then taking the excess into the rest of my hair. But as I get quite greasy hair quite quickly, I'm really focusing it on the ends and only putting the leftover amounts into the rest of my hair. I then repeat this exact same process on the other side of my hair, making sure to focus the product into my ends and just using the excess on the rest of my head. Next up, I want to section my hair ready to go in with my pre-styling tool, and I use these black clips to help me section. I will link some down in the description below. I like to use this tool because if my hair is too wet when I come to use the curling attachments, it doesn't work so well, and I'll show you that later in the video. But when I'm sectioning here, I section my hair just above my ear and put the top half in little messy space buns to get it out of the way, and I also pin my fringe out of the way as well. Now it's time for me to detangle my extremely knotty hair, and this is my favourite brush to use. It's a wet brush and it's a mixture of plastic bristles with boar bristles, and wet brushes are my favourite brushes to use when my hair is wet. It does get really tangly, as I said, and I find that these brushes go through my hair really well in comparison to other brushes. So if your hair gets knotty quite easily like mine, I would definitely recommend checking out wet brushes. I'll link a couple of my favourite ones in the description down below. So this is the pre-styling drying attachment. It's basically a hairdryer, and I use this because, as I said, if my hair is too wet when it comes to curling it, it won't work, and I'll show you that later in the video. So here I'm drying it to the point where you can only just tell that it's wet, and this is something that you'll have to experiment with if you have the Airwrap, because from what I've seen, everyone has an ideal different level of wetness. For me, it is pretty much almost dry, like it's just damp. For some people, they tend to have their hair a little bit wetter, but this is what I've found works best for me. So I'm just going over my hair, doing a really rough dry, just to get some of the moisture out of my hair. Next, I'm going in with the brush attachment. You do get two, as I showed you in the introduction. I don't really see a difference between the two brush attachments, so I just pick one or the other. And the reason I'm using this is, one, to make sure that my roots are smooth. I do have a bit of frizzy, wavy hair, so I use this to make sure that my roots are smooth and as straight as possible, but also to make sure that my roots are dry. When I curl my hair, I don't necessarily get all the way to the root all the time, so sometimes the root stays a little bit damp. So this trick just makes sure that my roots are dry and that my roots are smooth, sleek and straight. Once I've finished with this, I'll change back over to the pre-styling drying attachment, and I'll continue with the rest of my hair until I've done all of my hair and it feels almost dry, just a little bit of moisture, not too much, but as I said, this is something that I think you'd have to figure out for yourself because everyone has a different preference here. Once I've got the level of dryness that I'm looking for, I give my hair a good brush just to make sure there's no tangles, and then I go and section it. This time I'm sectioning a little bit higher, but this will be completely down to you. I find that sectioning makes the whole process so much easier. I have a lot of hair, so it's vital that I section it so that I can see what I'm doing bit by bit and I don't lose bits of hair. So I section here about level with my eyebrows so that I've got the majority of my hair still down. I do have layers, so I do have quite a lot of hair at the top of my head to deal with, but at this point I'm just dealing with the bottom, and as I said, I take it from about my eyebrows, do my messy face buns and get my fringe out of the way. One thing that I found really helpful with using the Airwrap is this spritzer water bottle that I've got. I'll link one down below in the description box, but it's just really helpful to have this on hand for if my hair's got a little bit too dry, just to add a little bit of moisture back into it. So one last brush before it's time to curl. To choose which curler you need, look in a mirror, and the one that is facing away from you is the one that you should use. It took me a while to get that into my head, but always just look in the mirror and use the one that's pointing away from your face. So now to start curling, finally. To section my hair as I'm going, I usually take a vertical section of hair and then I split that horizontally, and that's about the amount that I use to curl. Then I hold my hair about 2/3 of the way down, hold it in front of my Airwrap, and the magic begins. It just magically wraps around the Airwrap. It gets about halfway up the head, and then towards the end I just help by giving it a bit of a twist myself. So it usually gets about 1/2 to 2/3 of the way by itself, and then I give a little bit of a twist myself to get it up to the roots. I hold it here for about 10 seconds and then I use the cold switch for about 10 seconds before turning the Airwrap off. Now when I take my hair off the air wrap, I hold it in place before I let it drop. This is to let it cool even further to give it the best chance to set, and then I let it drop. Do not touch the hair at this point. I let my hair set for as long as possible because the longer I leave it to set, the more likely it is that my curl is going to last. So no matter how tempted you are, do not mess with that curl. So I'll show you again, about a third of the way up the hair, put the hair in front of the curler and let it wrap around the curler. You can see that it does about 2/3 of the way by itself. You do sometimes have to just push it up the barrel a little bit, and then you curl the last third by twisting the barrel up to the root at your head. Hold it there for about 10 seconds. Use the cool button for about 10 seconds, and then when you take it off the barrel, hold the curl together to give it time to set and then place it down. You can use clips to pin the curls to let them set, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. I think they take up so much time, it just gets really faffy. I've got so much hair, so I prefer to do it this way. You might get a longer lasting effect if you do use the clips, but for me, I just prefer to do it this way. So now I'm just going to continue and do the rest of my hair in the same way. Do not be alarmed that the curls look a little bit insane at the moment. Once we brush them out, they'll look nice and loose and bouncy, but we're just letting them set so that they hold the curl for as long as possible. If you find that your hair isn't wrapping around the air wrap, it could be that your hair is too wet. So I'm just wetting a piece here to show you what happens if the hair is too wet. It's almost like it makes the hair too heavy for the air wrap to pick up. So you can see I've saturated, it's not dripping wet, but there's a bit more moisture in there. But the air wrap just can't pick up the hair like it's trying to, you can see. But it's just struggling with how wet the hair is. So that's why for me, I tend to have my hair pretty dry, wet enough so that it can dry whilst on the curler to hold that shape in place, but dry enough that it actually works and wraps around the curler. So this is half my hair done. I'm going to go off camera and finish the other half and then come back and I'll show you how I style my fringe. So this is all of my hair curled. It looks tight, it's not looking how I want it to look right now, but as I've said, I'm just going to let it set like this so that the curls have the best chance of staying in place a little bit longer, and then I'll brush it out. So to do my fringe, I have a bit of a curtain fringe at the moment, so I'll brush my fringe out and split it in half with my part. And then using the correct hair curler, so the one that's facing away as I look in the mirror, and I'm curling literally just the ends of my fringe very briefly and very loosely, just so they get that bit of a flick that I want with my curtain fringe. So I'm just switching the barrels over and I'll show you again. I'm holding it quite close to the end of my fringe because I don't want too much of a curl, and I'm literally just letting the ends wrap very loosely around the barrel for a few seconds and then taking it off, and I've just got a nice little flick for my fringe. So now I'm going to leave this to set. I'll probably go and do my makeup and then I'll come back and I'll brush it out and show you what it looks like. And I'm back. So I've put on some makeup. It has been probably about 2 hours because I started editing this video. So this is how the curls look after that amount of time. So they've obviously dropped out, but they're still relatively defined. So what I'm gonna do now is brush them out so I get that really nice loose curl, bouncy wave, blow dry look. And I'm gonna do that with a wide tooth comb. You can use any wide tooth comb. This is just the one that I've got. I will link it down below if you're looking for one, but any wide tooth comb. And the reason that you want a wide tooth comb is so that it doesn't like completely brush out the curls and you still get a bit of that definition. So I'm just gonna gently brush the curls out. Obviously you don't have to do this, it's, you know, preference as to how you want to do it. But you can see they're still quite bouncy. And do the same on the other side. And then I do take my brush and just give myself a bit of volume in the top. One thing I haven't really figured out yet is how to bring the curls up a little bit higher. They start down here, and really I'd probably want them to start about up here, so that's going to be a focus of mine, trying to figure out how to get a bit more volume with the curls. But I think, yeah, that is about how I would have it. So it isn't, I'm still not perfect. There's still a few things that I want to figure out, like, oh, and I've missed a bit, or it's not curled enough there, so I could go in and top that up. But this is pretty much how I would style it, and I love it so much. Like, this is just, I could never ever get a look like this with curlers, and not as quickly and as easily as I did with this. So yeah, I just love it. My hair feels so soft and smooth, and it's bouncy. Yeah, I absolutely love it. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments. But I just think it looks so fun, and I can't wait till my hair is a little bit longer and I can have it like even curlier. I just think it's wonderful. So that is the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had the most amount of fun filming it. It's been a little bit of a different way of working for me with the voiceover and so on. So you'll have to let me know what you think in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, if you could give it a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. And if this is your first time here and you've enjoyed what you've seen, if you want to subscribe and stick around, I'd love to have you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.